and welcome everyone to Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. I am your host, Nina Joshi. I'd like to formally bring on our guest for today, Jolene Anderson, who's the Managing Director at VenturePoint Ventures. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, good morning. I guess it's afternoon in your time zone. Thank you so much.
Yes.
It's quite an honor to be featured on this exciting Health Tech Wednesday.
Thank you so much, Jolene. I would really love maybe if we can kind of kickstart the conversation by just learning a little bit more about yourself, about your background, and kind of the journey that has led you to where you are right now.
Well, I really have to say a passion for wellness and thriving at the age of 38, which was more than 30 years ago. My body nearly stopped from having a type A personality and working in the corporate world. So I wasn't listening to my body and I thought I was doing everything right, but it virtually stopped. And so it was the traditional coconut on the head. So I immersed myself in East-West medicine, nutrition, acupuncture, massage, reading, meditation, everything I could potentially do, because the thought of not being able to get up in the morning and have energy and being able to move was frightening to me. So I immersed myself in East-West medicine and formed a global wellness education company. But really, it was really more to heal myself. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity and that teachable moment, because today at 70, I'm much healthier than I ever anticipated being.
That's amazing. And I would imagine that, just reflecting on your own journey and the really, the personal tie that you have to health and wellness, kind of transitioning to the work that you're doing right now. I mean, for you, how have these personal values, this interest, this passion of yours kind of shaped your approach to investing or kind of engaging with women's health?
Well, yeah, so I bring a lot of passion, but I also thank the people that I interact with, a lot of people in rheumatology, different forms of medicine, but also the thought leaders that I've been following and have had the opportunity to meet over the last 3 decades. And, there's so much great information out there, but I bring a vast, it's not me, but I say it's not how much you know, it's who you know. So I have a hunger and an innate thirst for knowledge and how to employ the thought, the ancient wisdom and the evolving, emerging health wisdom into a body of work so we can improve women's lives. So those women don't have to learn the hard way, and so that they can teach their daughters and their granddaughters how to live happier, more productive lives. It also affects our economy greatly. And so building a healthy economy is part of that. That financial wellness is a great passion of mine.
Absolutely. No, that's so incredible. And for you, kind of with the work that you're doing right now as a managing partner, how would you describe your investment philosophy in women's health? And what are some of the key criteria that you really look for and prioritize when evaluating these opportunities, kind of knowing what you know and who you know as well in this, really important sector of healthcare?
So, there's typically the deal screening checklist that you would have in any venture portfolio or angel investment portfolio. And I've been an angel investor and ran an angel forum as a chapter for about a decade. So using that screening criteria, but really looking for companies that are making impact. And of course, if a company has a breakthrough device or solution for women's health, it's really, really going to impact a lot more women. So we're not looking for just any women-led healthcare, but those that have breakthrough devices, or breakthrough solutions that will impact millions of wisdom and a large addressable market. But more than that, is it accessible to women? Because if it's not accessible, if they can't afford it, that's part of it. So enabling this to be accessible to all women is really a great passion of mine and mission. But also these companies have to have all the ingredients to have a return. And so, we're charged with making sure that these companies can scale and commercialize.
That's amazing. And I really like that you called out the accessibility aspect as well. I'm kind of curious from you, Jolene, because you were mentioning to me before we went live that you were hosting a radio show, which is so cool. But I'm so curious for you, kind of in the age of, all of these new media channels that are opening up, social media, etc. When you first were talking about accessibility from a financial perspective, I was just curious on your take when it comes to just access of information, and kind of what that looks like from your perspective, since you were actually like in the game yourself.
Well, I was early, but certainly not as early as my grandmother who lived to be 96. So, I came from a background of people who are really focused on learning, and I'm a lifetime learner. And so reading books has always been my go-to. And also there's a wealth of information. There's webinars, there's white papers. I do a lot of research, about an hour to an hour and a half of research every morning early
Wow.
because my brain's most active and receptive.
Mhm.
But knowledge is power, and there's so many great thought leaders out there. There's so much information and innovation in women's health and healthcare in general. That one of the events that I love to join is US News Healthcare for Tomorrow. And they before COVID were even having a lot of discussions about telehealth. And so we live in a rural community about an hour and a half from Seattle, Washington, largely retirees. So, having access to these solutions,
Mhm.
particularly for seniors, is hugely important.
100%. And I really like that you mentioned how there's so many ways to kind of get information. And I would imagine for you in your role of, needing to stay on top of a lot of these emerging trends, for folks that are listening now, what are some of the places that you look towards? I know you mentioned the US Week of Health kind of conference. Are there any other podcasts or journals or things that you kind of turn to get your news?
Well, I do like Life Science Washington has a newsletter online, and I'm very active at Life Science Washington, and there's a lot of seminars. But I read Cure magazine. Have for
Mhm.
years. I was a volunteer leader on the leadership board for American Cancer Society a few years ago. And Biospace, Pharma Voice, um, Genome Research, academia.edu. There's a whole plethora
Mhm.
of things that flood my inbox every morning. And so it's, being selective. I used to read the
Definitely.
Harvard Women's Health newsletter very, very actively. There's
Mhm.
so many things that we really need to keep informed on. And I see
Awesome.
there's someone else that is talking about the Femtech conference. So there's a lot of conferences that are coming up that are held. There's almost too many, but you have to be selective. I think it's really important to spend that time doing research into trends, because if we look at trends, we can spot problems early.
Definitely.
And if we can spot problems early, then we can develop solutions for these problems.
Mhm. 100%. And you brought up something that's really interesting about, there's so much information, there's so many sources of information, and kind of the importance of selection and curation and kind of knowing like what type of information to look for. What are some of the things that when it comes to information, but also just conferences, because there are definitely a lot that keep cropping up. Are there specific things that you kind of look for when it comes to whether or not you want to attend a specific conference or, read a specific publication?
Well, obviously, if it's impact focus and focusing on women's health, and also on neuroscience. I'm very, very interested in neuroscience. I'm on the board of endbraincancer.org. So it has a component to change outcomes for brain tumor patients.
Wow.
I personally would
Mhm.
be more welcome to attending that. I'm very blessed to live near Seattle. We have a lot of large thought conferences there. So, and then of course we have the Gates Foundation, the Allen Institute, all those newsletters, Path International. We're just a hub for global health. And I feel very blessed to be there. But I look for impact,
Mhm.
women angel investors, women VCs, but also, things that are impacting health like climate change. That's definitely impacting all healthcare around the globe. So
Mhm.
definitely looking for those things. It's really a matter of how much time do you have.
100%. I love it. You're kind of like teaching us how to learn. So that's always something
Oh,
that I
yeah.
love.
I think I should have been a professor.
I see it. I definitely can see you excelling in that. Wanted to chat with you, Jolene, a little bit more about the work that you're kind of currently doing at VectorPoint Ventures. I know that you had kind of mentioned, of course, that investing and kind of raising capital is a part of that. But for VectorPoint Ventures, what are some other kind of unique values that kind of the team brings to women's health companies within the portfolio to kind of actively contribute to just growth and continued success?
Sure. Well, we can bring, access to, foundational funding,
Mm,
access to non-dilutive funding, whether it's SBIR, STTR. I get the newsletter from the National Institutes of Health, part of that's National Institutes of Aging. We're very active in the Angel Capital Association. I'm co-chair of the Impact Syndication Committee, but really bringing access to a vast network of people that are really focused and, paying it forward, using their dollars. Obviously, the companies have to be able, we're not a nonprofit, but we can collaborate with
definitely.
foundations, educational, institutions, universities, resources, thought leaders, opportunities for speaking like this, where we can put, a startup founder in front of an audience that would be interested in learning the solution that they've developed. But
Definitely.
beyond that, really advising them and making sure that they have all the tools necessary at their disposal.
I love that. And it really is to your point of just harnessing the community and these types of opportunities. So I definitely think that that is, a huge win.
It is because we're a community. And
Mhm.
one of the blessings that I have in every day in my job is I get to go to science class every day. Some days I might see 5 oncology companies. It's really fascinating to see the solutions that people have for different, and, stroke recovery, hugely important. As women, we're at high risk for, heart disease.
Mhm.
But we are empowering women with our innovation. Even if you fail fast, part of our job and the journey is to make sure innovators get an opportunity to be in front of as many opportunities to tell their story as possible.
I 100% love that. And kind of your being the connecting point and kind of being able to open those doors so that they can, share their story and make that impact, I think is so powerful. Incredible. And Jolene, wanted to ask you, I think that there's been a lot of kind of news around like acquisitions and kind of a lot of things that are kind of happening in just the broader healthcare life sciences space. And would love to just get your perspective on kind of exit strategies within the women's health sectors. Is that something that you kind of are actively looking at within your own portfolio companies or just in general? And how do you kind of assess the optimal time to kind of have that an exit conversation or to advise founders to think about exiting? Any insight I think would be so helpful.
Well, I don't know that I have a magic formula, but I can tell you every investor is focused from day one on exit strategy.
Mm,
So, a part of that research is to see who's getting funded and what the trends are.
mhm,
So, obviously last year was a fairly difficult year.
mhm,
However, one of the companies that we were advising, we were able to introduce a key board member, and that was a
mm,
game changer in terms of filling that bridge round.
right.
So exit strategies, yes, obviously, we always advise or ask people on the first intake, are you talking to strategics? What is your end game? Because,
Mhm,
having that end game in mind from day one of founding a company is key to the successful exit of that company. Is it an IPO? Is it, acquisition? Is it licensing? All of these things are really, really important.
definitely.
And
That's
getting the founders, if they're not already, having coachability is something we always look for, no matter what the type of company. But an ideal solution, all investors would like to see an exit in 2 to 3 years. But
mhm,
realistically, that's not the optimal for a lot of companies. They don't want to leave too much on the table. So, and I'm a former founder, so I understand that you want to maximize your return.
mhm.
But, ideally between 5 and 7.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and I would imagine, of course, like if only there was like a magic wand. But I,
Yes, I
you
would
know,
waive that every day. Yes.
exactly. But I really like how because you definitely answered my next question, which was when should founders start to have that conversation? And I like that it was really just day one to kind of think about what the end game looks like. I think is really smart strategy.
Yeah,
So,
so this is not my original quote, but starting with the end in mind,
mhm.
you know,
Very true.
so, and working backwards from that is really
Absolutely.
the ultimate. But getting a founder to, and if they need assistance, and if
Mhm.
they need to talk to an advise, build their board of advisors, or, you know, introduction to a board member, occasionally will take a position on a board. That's
Mm,
not that it would be a rare exception, but it's really important that they have that access to that advice. And it's okay to say you don't have all the answers, because one of the blessings of getting to be my age is you realize there's so much you really don't know. And
mhm.
that took me quite a few years to admit to that. But you know, life is a journey, and
Absolutely.
there are always people that know more than you do and can help pivot that company to success. Once that company is out there and the product is selling, then it can impact millions of women.
Absolutely. 100%. And kind of speaking a little bit more on the founder perspective, as a former founder yourself, kind of being wearing the founder hat and now wearing the venture hat, are there any particular, personal qualities or skill sets, anything that you kind of look for or can kind of tell with founders when it comes to assessing, I would imagine them as well as the idea in the company? Are there things that as a funder that you kind of are looking for?
Well, you know, obviously resilience,
Totally.
being able to, because it takes a lot of courage and tenacity to be a founder.
Mhm.
Also coachability and
Oh,
ability to see around corners.
mm,
Because no matter how perfect your business plan, which is not even reality,
mhm,
things will change. The markets change. Things are out of your control. And
mhm.
also, do they have a support system? And do
Oh,
they have financial backup? Because I was teaching some classes in a university a few years ago, and you know, to the students, and I absolutely love working with student entrepreneurs. But you know, one of the main things is, you know, making sure that you're in a position, because investors are not going to want to pay for your retirement fund.
mhm,
They really want to make sure that you are able to. Right now, most companies, if not all, are in lean startup mode.
mhm,
And so being able to, you know, survivability was something that I personally had to walk through. And that was a difficult lesson.
mhm. That's, this is all really great insight. And I think the resilience piece and just being able to be very adaptive, I would imagine are just, really strong traits. I would say in general, but can
And
see
having a good
how
sense of
important.
humor doesn't hurt.
Yeah, that too. That too. I love
And
that.
healthy. It takes a
And
lot of
healthy.
energy.
Yes, yes, exactly. All of those things. That's a great bundle. I love that.
And
You had,
education is great, but
mhm,
emotional intelligence is also part of that
yes,
education. Being able
definitely.
to work well with different sorts of people, because you'll meet investors that are very helpful, and then you'll
Mhm,
meet potentially investors that you may not particularly jive with, but could be a
mhm.
great resource for the company.
Right. That's really true. I think the people component and the emotional intelligence component are really, really those like soft skills that really matter.
Yes, yes.
100%. Wanted to kind of ask you, you had mentioned a little bit, speaking about the resiliency and how there's so many, things that are outside of our control, i.e. the market. Wanted to kind of get your perspective from just the research that you're seeing, the work that you're seeing. How are you kind of seeing the landscape of women's health investments kind of evolve over the few years? Are there any particular women's health trends or areas of interest for you that you're excited about?
Oh, I'm passionate about all women's health, but you know, obviously things that make women's healthcare accessible to all. Telehealth, digital health, but diagnostics that will empower doctors to give, you know, to, I'm sorry, diagnostics that will help doctors to really work with women who have autoimmune diseases, because, you know,
Mhm.
I basically was a person who suffered from fibromyalgia. And so that hit me really hard. I have friends who are impacted with autoimmune diseases. We have a disproportionate share, I'm told, in the Seattle area of women affected by that. But it's really, really important that we have those tools to measure outcomes and to using biomarkers. I'm very interested in breakthrough medicine. I'm also
Mm,
very interested in things that will provide data that
wow.
prove that East and Western medicine combined
Mhm.
improve women's lives.
Definitely. And I love that we were kind of talking about this earlier too, about the Eastern West medicine and really just kind of holistic medicine in general. So I like that you were kind of calling out some really interesting areas of innovation. And one of the things that I really like that you called out was the inclusivity aspect as well. And when you kind of think about, your particular approach, what does that look like when it comes to fostering diversity, inclusion, just within your own investment portfolio?
Well, again, at VectorPoint, we focus 50% or more of our investments into women-led or minority-led companies or
That's
veteran-led
amazing.
companies. But, making sure that women have access to all these tools so that a single mom in an urban location that is in a food desert, that,
Mhm.
making sure that they have access to information, access to tools. It's really important I sat on a rural healthcare board in Idaho for a few years. It was really, really important that we make all these tools accessible, and that's why, telemedicine is hugely important, and remote monitoring medicine, because we have
Hmm.
so many of these people living in rural communities that don't have access like we do in an urban setting. And if we improve lives of women, we improve lives of children.
I
When
love.
children are healthy, they can learn.
Mhm.
Now I'm on my soapbox.
No, this is
It's
incredible.
really, really important I think, for children's health. One of the things I'd like to see more investment in, and we see a lot of great companies,
Mhm.
is in senior health longevity, but also in mental health for children.
Definitely. And have you been seeing any interesting advancements or kind of any energy in that space, or is there
Oh,
still?
yes. Yeah, I
That's
just screened a
great.
company yesterday. I've seen quite a few. Typically, I see between 250 and 300 companies a year. So that's why I can't attend every event that I would like to. But, and I'm just one of thousands of people
Mhm.
in this ecosystem. I've been told there's 51,000 startups. I haven't seen that in writing in the US. But
Mhm.
you can imagine that a significant amount, even if 1% were focused on women's health. And I'm sure I have a statistic that I can't take credit for, but I was doing some research this morning, and it basically said that the women's health investment flourished in the past five
Wow.
years, 314%. So while
That's
the dollars are down, the
yeah.
actual investment landscape is showing that there's increased investment in women's health, and we've got a long way to go.
Mhm. That's amazing. It's a great to see that there's so much room for opportunity, but that there's so much that has been done already. So,
It's
if
a
anything,
good
that's a
trend for
great
your
rallying cry.
generation.
Yes, yes.
And I also think it's important that women have access to knowing how to invest. If they're an accredited investor, knowing that they have access to this and use their dollars and pay it forward. There
Mhm.
is no better use of our funds than investing in healthcare. So I tell my husband frequently, if the average American invested as much as they do in their healthcare as they do in their automobiles, we'd be the healthiest country on the planet.
Definitely. That is very, very true. And I think a great rallying cry for just continued engagement in this space.
So we are seeing some good exits. Last year was a really difficult year, but we had three exits for healthcare companies over $1 billion in Seattle last year. So
Yeah,
that was
wow.
very exciting for our life science community. So I'm very excited to see the trend, and I'm looking forward to the Life Science Washington event and speaking there April 17th at the convention center. It's really exciting to be part of this ecosystem, but we can all change that.
Mhm. 100%. And if anyone is in that area, make sure you go check out Jolene as she speaks. That would be another great opportunity.
And there are a
Jo
lot better speakers than myself there. So
I'm sure you're part of the great panel of many. That is so funny. Jolene, we
and
have a question from the audience that I want to make
oh
sure that we
yes.
do. So one of the questions that we have is, do you see common elements of, fragmented siloed data, non-interoperability, no patient control as primary contributors to why solutions or innovation initiatives are slow to develop?
That's a mouthful. Well, I think empowering physicians
Mhm,
with tools that have better diagnostics are really important to improve patient results.
mhm,
So there is a company that I believe will be on later on HitLab called InMedix that I personally invested in. And so that is a diagnostic that's launching in physicians' offices this year. And that will definitively prove, different who will respond to a certain drug and who will not. And
mhm,
that is in, obviously launching in rheumatology for autoimmune patients. I'd like to see all this innovation that we have in AI and patient
mhm.
data diagnostics to giving patients more access to their data and ensuring that they get better outcomes. No one wants to take a drug unnecessarily
Definitely.
because oftentimes the drug has a residual outcome that is not, unfortunately, not going to, it has, I guess, I'm looking for that word here.
Mhm.
The outcome is not necessarily in the best interest of the patient.
Definitely, definitely. That's very, very true.
But we have a lot of thought leaders in diagnostics, and we're seeing a lot of advancement.
Yes, adverse events. That's so
Adverse
important.
events. Thank you.
Thank you for that's very helpful. Definitely. And I wholeheartedly agree. I think that there's a lot of interesting work that's being done and a lot of work to be done. I do realize, Julian, that we are at time, but I want to ask one last question, which is my favorite question, kind of reflecting on your own, personal professional journey as founder, investor, corporate America worker. Is there any words of wisdom or advice that you have to, aspiring professionals in the field? Anything that maybe a mentor shared with you that you want to share forward, or just a Jolene original? Would love
My
any.
original, yeah.
Yes, you have so many.
Yeah. Well, years ago, I said health is wealth. I don't know if that is the most important, but we need to guard our health. And if we find ourselves being out of balance, no matter how much you love your job, myself included, I have to give myself that talk. Invest in your health. If you find you're out of balance, take a walk, get a massage,
Mhm.
meditate, do whatever, listen to uplifting music, whatever connects you with your source. It's so important to manage and listen to our bodies and invest in making sure that we can bring our best self to the table. And if you're a parent or a grandparent like myself, it's really important to teach the next generation.
Mm. That's so beautiful and so sustaining of a message. Thank you so much, Jolene, for just taking the time to chat today. It was such an enlightening conversation.
Thank you very much. It's just been an honor, and I look forward to connecting with the folks that are messaging here in chat. And thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, Jolene.